Conceptual God. When Zhou heard this, he frowned. The conceptual God system, no wonder it is so troublesome. He had heard of the conceptual God system before. Such conceptual gods could easily fight above their level with their conceptual abilities. Even stronger god spirits would face the risk of perishing if they did not abide by their conceptual rules. Their powerful divine power and law skills would not be of much use in the face of absolute conceptual power. Only by following the other party's rules could he barely survive. If a low-tier deity-level elementary grade concept god faced a normal god spirit at the level of a true god tier, if this true god tier did not understand the conceptual rules of the other party, he might even die without coming into contact with the other party. A powerful conceptual god was comparable to a supreme willpower realm expert or even a willpower realm expert. Could be seen how terrifying the conceptual god was. Lord Supreme Will, what's the difference between conceptual gods like them and the conceptual gods of our universe? Zhou thought for a while and asked. Conceptual gods also existed in this universe, but they were not very outstanding in terms of quantity or ability. Therefore, they were at a disadvantage in the multiverse and could not be compared to the normal god-spirit system. The conceptual god of the illusionist clan was able to invade the two universes of them, and his ambition was the entire ultimate void great cosmos. There must be something shocking about his god-spirit system. When the Supreme Will heard this, he fell silent for a few seconds before saying, "There are many differences between them and our conceptual gods. But there are two big differences. One is that they are immortal because the foundation of their existence is the power of the imagination of the ordinary life forms in the world they are in. As long as they, who provide the power of imagination, are not extinct, it will be very difficult for the illusionist clan to die. It can even be said that they are immortal. After they perished, they would only need a period of time to be reborn in the imagination of those life forms. In short, it's very difficult to kill them. Ordinary life forms should be easy to kill, right?" Zhou thought. "It's not that simple." The Supreme Will shook his head. "Those ordinary life forms can only be killed by the conceptual power of the world they are in. If we orthodox god spirits go to the world of the illusionary race and come to those ordinary life forms, we will find that our divine power, law skills, and even willpower skills are useless against those life forms. Even though they are ordinary, they seem to be protected by the concept of ordinary. Any extraordinary tier power, god spirit power, or willpower will become ordinary and harmless in front of them. Those ordinary life forms can even use their strength to activate their physical bodies and easily injure or even kill us. Since then, we have rarely sent experts to that world. Almost all the powerhouses who went there were transformed into the illusionist clan, so that they could exist as powerhouses in that world." Zhou nodded silently. So that is how it was. This kind of immortality was quite troublesome. The only way to make them indestructible and ineffective was to kill all the ordinary life forms in the illusionary world. However, ordinary life forms in the illusionist world could only be killed by the conceptual power of the illusionist clan. But how could that be? The illusionist clan knew that their immortality came from the imagination of ordinary life forms, so it was impossible for them to cut off the source of their immortality. After the illusionist clan is born from the imagination of ordinary life forms, they will have the status of a god spirit. 1416 It might even increase the number of ordinary life forms. Only then could they make themselves stronger and stabilize their indestructible abilities. The more Zhou thought about it, the more difficult it became. At this moment, the Supreme Will continued. Besides this one difference, the other is, after the illusionist clan is born from the imagination of ordinary life forms, they will have the status of a god spirit. In other words, they were born as god spirits. Unlike the conceptual god in our universe, no matter how noble the bloodlines of our ancestors are, they have to grow step by step from the lowest level of extraordinary individuals. At most, they will master more powerful conceptual power. However, no matter how powerful the conceptual power they master is, they still have to go through layers of hardships and long periods of cultivation before they can advance to become God spirits. A God spirit at birth. How is that possible? Zhou was shocked. He relied on his Lord talent to allow his subjects to reach the level of being epic tier at birth. The illusionist clan did not have any Lord talent, so how could they reach the level of a God spirit at birth? If you've been to the illusionary world, you'll know. The Supreme will looked at Zhou's shocked expression and said with a smile, "The illusionary world of the illusionary clan is very small, only the size of a normal boundless universe. However, such a small world can become the opposing side of our ultimate void universe. It's hard to imagine how shocking the energy contained in that illusionary world is. On the basis of so much energy, it's actually normal to give birth to a conceptual god like the illusionist clan who was born as a god spirit. Oh, so that's it. It's just a boundless universe, yet it can rival our entire ultimate void great cosmos. Then the energy in they must be extremely compressed and of high quality. It's normal for such a magical illusionist clan to be born on the foundation of such a world." Zhou began to understand. Then, the Supreme will told Zhou some more information about the illusionist clan and left. Zhou fell into deep thought. He knew how powerful the illusionist clan was. However, he did not have any fear in his heart. The illusionist clan was strong. Was he the common people's regal weak? As the land of inheritance of the Yellow River's will was a place that only the highest supreme god could enter, if Zhou entered as a top expert below the supreme will realm, there was a high chance that he could snatch the inheritance of the Yellow River's will. Even if an accident really happened and he did not manage to snatch it, it would definitely not be a problem for him to protect himself. Therefore, he was not afraid at all. There was only eagerness and fighting spirit. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then, he turned around and entered the Reincarnation Sacred Palace to continue cultivating. He had to improve his cultivation realm as soon as possible. The divine spirit realm of a grade 1 supreme god was still too low. It would naturally be best if he could raise his cultivation realm to that of a grade 2 supreme god before entering the inheritance ground of the Yellow River's will. At that time, his strength would increase again, and his confidence in the land of inheritance would definitely increase again. The next day in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou slowly opened his eyes. He sensed his cultivation realm and nodded slightly. At this rate, I should be able to raise my strength to the grade 2 supreme god by tomorrow. At that time, the power of my law skills and lord talent will increase by a small level, and my combat strength will also be higher. Zhou muttered to himself. Then, with a thought, a template appeared in front of him. It was the new supreme unique lord talent that he had just awakened. He looked over. Lord talent. Protection of the supreme god of war. Terrence. Supreme. Unique. Specific talent effect 1. Terrence's supreme blessing. Master god of the common people's regal supreme god of war. Terrence has cast the supreme blessing on you and your combat type professionals. After you and your combat type professionals kill the enemy, you will receive an additional 30,000% promotion energy. Specific talent effect 2. War fanatic. When you and your combat type professionals reach the limit of your potential, you can break through the limit of your potential through life and death battles and reach a new level of strength. In the process of life and death slaughter in war, god spirits could comprehend their own nomological path faster in the midst of great terror, thus completing the accumulation of nomological laws to complete their own realm breakthrough. The upper limit was a grade 4 supreme god. Specific talent effect 3. Heart of war. Every time you and your combat type professionals experience a war, your willpower will be improved to varying degrees due to the tempering of the war, until you become a grade 4 supreme god. Zhou nodded in satisfaction after reading it. This grade 1 supreme sacred body had indeed upgraded the original 10 sacred blessings, War Master God Terrence's protection, to the supreme unique lord talent, just as he had thought. Look at the effect of these enhancements. After killing the enemy, the additional promotion energy obtained increased from 100 times to 300 times. After breaking through the upper limit of the bottleneck through battle, he had also advanced from the Master God tier level to the Grade 4 Supreme God level. In addition, there was an additional talent effect, Heart of War. It could allow the combat-type professionals under him and he to experience a certain increase in their willpower realm after every battle. The upper limit was also the level of a Grade 4 Supreme God. With the effects of these 3 Lord talents, the number of Supreme Gods born under him would definitely increase greatly in the future. Supreme God Realm. Excluding the quasi-supreme willpower realm experts, the Supreme Gods were already considered the top combat power among the God spirits under him. Now, the top combatants under him would increase in large quantities because of this supreme unique Lord talent in the future. How could he not be happy? After coming back to his senses, Zhou calculated in his heart. Currently, he already had 6 supreme unique Lord talents. They were Heavenly Fate Di Huang, Protection of the Supreme Will, Lord of Holy Shadows, Son of Destiny, Lord of Peace, and the Protection of the Supreme God of War, Terrence. He nodded inwardly. Any one of these 6 Lord talents was very important and useful to him. From the looks of it, he could not stop creating the supreme unique Lord talent. Then, he didn't think too much about it. He stood up and left the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, arriving at Mu Gu's residence. After Zhou arrived, he saw Mu Gu reading a book while Wu Xian had already led his army into the nest to hunt the nest monsters. Seeing this, he waited with Mu Gu for a moment. After Wu Xian came out, Zhou took 2 world rings from him. One of the world rings contained 2,000 capital units, Supreme God Realm Soldier Recruitment Books, and 2,000 capital units, Supreme Holy Mage God Recruitment Books. The other world ring contained the other loots of the nest monster. Then, Zhou asked Wu Xian to be in charge of the job transition, while he himself came to the Gate of Summoning. Then, he came directly to the Gate of Summoning. He first called for an eternal battleship of the Master God tier advanced grade, then threw all the recruitment books in. Finally, he spent 100 true God tier intermediate grade divine crystals to recruit all of them in one go and arranged them on this eternal battleship. Then, he spent another 100 Master God tier intermediate grade divine crystals to summon 66,666,600 pure-blooded dragons. They were also placed on another eternal mothership. Then, he carefully observed these dragons and discovered that he had also summoned 2 legendary dragons. One of the legendary dragons was the Ice Divine Dragon, Sirach. The other legendary dragon was the Dark Dragon Merkel. Zhou nodded slightly. Of the 2 legendary dragons, one was a legendary dragon who walked the path of the Ice Law, and the other was a legendary dragon who walked the path of the Dark Law. Among all the legendary dragons, they were considered relatively famous. Then, he summoned the 2 legendary dragons and chatted briefly with they, before letting they take these pure-blooded dragons to the Dragon God Army. Then, Zhou spent another 100 Master God tier intermediate grade divine crystals to summon today's subject. This time, he summoned a total of 10 billion subjects. The strongest among them was 14 Master God tier intermediate grade God spirits. In addition, the number of new subjects summoned was more than 2.3 billion more than the normal number. Zhou was very satisfied with this result. Then, he got his subordinates to arrange the whereabouts of these new soldiers and new subjects before heading to the Jade Capital Immortal Mountain alone. After spending 1,000 low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals, he summoned 100 capital units heavenly soldiers, heavenly generals, and heavenly venerates. Right at that moment, swish, 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 a total of 39,529 light pillars of various laws soared into the sky from the direction of the Reincarnation Sacred Palace. Zhou's eyes lit up. This was the true God tier who was preparing to break through yesterday. After a night, he had finally advanced from a true God tier advanced grade to Master God tier elementary grade. Shortly after, 6 completely different starry sky phenomena appeared among the stars in the sky. These 6 starry sky phenomena dominated the entire starry sky. Among them, there was a divine power giant who split the sky with a punch, a powerful sword artist who killed demons with a sword, a heavenly soldier who guarded a region, and a meditator who closed his eyes to meditate. These 6 shocking starry sky phenomena stunned the gods of the myriad worlds. Because these 6 phenomena represented the birth of 6 high god realm masters. There were only 10,000 supreme gods in the entire universe. And today, 6 of them were born at the same time. Furthermore, these 6 were all from the same place, the blazing sun divine kingdom. They could not help but be shocked. Even though they had already seen how powerful the blazing sun divine kingdom was in creating god spirits. However, they never expected that even the supreme gods and the blazing sun divine kingdom could be produced in large quantities. Only 10,000 supreme gods survived after countless years in the myriad worlds. 6 newly advanced supreme gods appeared in one breath. Are you trying to challenge everyone's worldview and god spirit view? The gods of the myriad worlds went crazy over the fact that the blazing sun divine kingdom had produced 6 supreme gods in one go. Frankly speaking, in fact, it was still fine if a master god was born in the blazing sun divine kingdom. Even though master god tiers were known as clan-protecting experts, there were still many master gods of all the billions of races in the myriad worlds. They were not as rare as supreme gods. There were only more than 10,000 supreme gods in the entire supreme great cosmos. Therefore, when the 6 supreme gods of the blazing sun divine kingdom were born together, they immediately felt that their common sense had been overturned. Could even a supreme god be easily born in the blazing sun divine kingdom? This really increased the top power of the entire supreme great cosmos. Many god spirits, especially those who had participated in the ultimate void battleground and fought against the illusionist clan's invasion, knew the significance of this matter. If the blazing sun divine kingdom could produce more supreme gods in the future, it could completely save the disadvantage on the ultimate void battlefield and even break the stalemate in the land of dusk. If he could do both, then the common people's regal could completely become an existence like a savior. His achievements might even surpass God King Heaven Punishment and become the most prestigious existence in the Supreme Great Cosmos or even the Crimson Great Cosmos. Oh my God! The gods were shocked and once again realized the terrifying potential contained in the common people's regal. This potential was probably not inferior to the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord or even God King Heaven Punishment. In fact, further in, they did not dare to think too much about it. That was because it was unbelievable. Let's continue looking at the future of the common people's regal first. Maybe what happened today was just a coincidence. They thought to themselves. At the same time, in the blazing sun divine capital, Zhou looked at the 6 advancement phenomena in the cosmos and smiled. 6 god spirits had advanced to supreme god at the same time. Anyone would be happy. More than an hour later, the advancement phenomenon in the starry sky gradually dissipated. After all the advancement phenomena dissipated, 39,529 light pillars of laws of various colors and 6 especially huge light pillars of laws soared into the sky from the Reincarnation sacred palace. Then, they flew towards Zhou and quickly landed in front of him. They were the 39,529 newly promoted Master God tiers and the other 6 newly promoted Supreme Gods. After they arrived, they immediately kowtowed to Zhou in unison and said respectfully, "Greetings, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty, for bestowing us with this inheritance. We have all successfully advanced to become Master God Tier Elementary Grade God Spirits." After these newly advanced Master God Tiers finished speaking, First Venerable, they immediately said respectfully and gratefully, "Greetings, Your Majesty. We have successfully advanced to Grade 1 Supreme God." Zhou nodded with a smile and said, "Don't miss today's promotion ceremony. This emperor will personally attend to celebrate your promotions." "Thank you, Your Majesty," the god spirits said respectfully and excitedly. Zhou nodded and looked at the 6 new master gods. When he saw that among the 6 newly promoted master gods, there was the primordial dragon, First Venerable, the master god of light Hilu, and the goddess of life Tri-Tiz, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Back then, he had promised 9 of the 10 master gods that after they joined the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, he would do his best to help them become supreme gods. Currently, among the 9 supreme gods, 5 of them had already advanced to grade 1 supreme god. He believed that the other 4 supreme gods should be able to easily advance to the supreme god level under the nurturing of the top supreme god inheritance given by he and the cultivation environment of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. When the time came, he did not owe they anything. At the same time, the 3 newly promoted supreme gods also noticed Zhou-Zhou's gaze. They responded to Zhou-Zhou with a grateful gaze. They were grateful to Zhou-Zhou from the bottom of their hearts. They had spent an unknown amount of time without being able to advance to the supreme god level in the past after all. They had been stuck at the level of Master God Tier Advance grade. The reason why they agreed to the Supreme Will and were determined to work together to offer the 10 Lord Talents of the 10 Sacred Blessings was only to increase their hopes of becoming supreme gods. As for whether this hope could really be fulfilled, frankly speaking, they did not have much confidence back then. The total number of Lord Talents in the myriad worlds could be said to be vast after all. Even the mythical tier, the only level of Lord Talent, added up to millions. The 10 Sacred Blessings Lord Talent that they contributed was actually not very eye-catching. Not to mention meeting a Lord who could fulfill their wish to become a supreme god. However, not only had they encountered it, they had even fulfilled their wish in such a short period of time after joining the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. Even they felt a little surreal, not to mention the other god spirits. However, when they saw the envious gazes of the Machina Master God, the original Master God Tier, the Wisdom Master God, and the King of all gods, they immediately came back to their senses and realized that they were really in reality. What he had experienced was not an illusion. They had really become supreme gods. They looked at each other with genuine joy on their faces. At the same time, the original Master God Tier and the other 4 Master Gods were looking at First Venerable, they enviously while thinking about their future. They were equally confident in their future. With His Majesty's strong support, if they still could not be promoted to Supreme God, they might as well find a piece of tofu and knock themselves to death. After chatting with the newly promoted God Spirits for a while, Zhou-Zhou rewarded each Master God with a set of Master God Tier Elementary Grade Divine Artifact Suits. As for First Venerable, Zhou-Zhou also gave they a set of Grade 1 Supreme God Divine Artifacts that matched their own path of laws. Then he got them to look for Zheng Yuanqi to collect their jobs and worshipped God Spirit salaries. After they left, Zhou Fight calculated the strength of his main combat army, including the 8,000 new recruits from the capital units that had been recruited and changed today. There were 66,666,666,000 pure-blooded dragons, 100 heavenly soldiers from the capital units, 12,434 new master gods, and 2 new supreme gods. The troops under him had already reached 2 Gai Unit 7922 capital units with 2,387 trillion, 192,523,743,888 soldiers, 799,781,362,618 God spirits, 14,488,099,388 true God tiers, 241,981 supremacies and 182 supreme gods, and 1 quasi-supreme willpower realm expert. Zhou-Zhou nodded in satisfaction after reading it. His subordinates had officially broken through to the 2nd Gai unit and were not far from the 3rd Gai unit. Then, Zhou-Zhou sensed the lower limit of the potential of the Blazing Sun God race's citizens. Then, a smile appeared on his face again. Mid-tier deity level intermediate grade. After obtaining 7,213 newly advanced Master God tiers and 1 newly advanced Supreme God of the human race, the potential of the Blazing Sun God race had shockingly advanced from the mid-tier deity level elementary grade to the mid-tier deity level intermediate grade. Zhou-Zhou nodded slightly. Then, he sensed how many new Master Gods the Blazing Sun God race needed to advance from the mid-tier deity level intermediate grade to the mid-tier deity level advanced grade. A moment later, Zhou opened his eyes. 10,000. Zhou's eyes lit up. The additional newly promoted Master Gods and newly promoted Supreme Gods under him were equivalent to 7,974 newly promoted Master Gods. In other words, he only needed 2,026 new Master Gods of the human race, and the lowest potential of the human race under him could be promoted from the mid-tier deity level intermediate grade to the mid-tier deity level. Sure, it seemed that after solving the remaining 2 grade for Supreme God War territories tomorrow, he would be able to raise the lower limit of the human race's potential. At the same time, Zhou Marshall had already brought Thanatos, Nazario, and 10,000 Master God tier advanced grade God spirits to the Chaos Sea. They quickly found the space-time chaotic divine demon and discovered that there were a total of 232 chaotic divine demons beside the 4 chaotic divine demons. Zhou Marshall was pleasantly surprised. The number of chaotic divine demons that they had brought this time was more than twice as many as the last time. He immediately brought the God spirits to them. "Greetings, Your Majesty. Greetings, Lord Supreme God of Death, Lord Abyssal Holy Dragon." The 4 chaotic divine demons, Space, Ancestor Wind, and Spirit Shadow, immediately said respectfully when they saw Zhou Marshall and them. Zhou Marshall nodded and immediately smiled. "You brought quite a number of chaotic divine demons today." The space-time chaotic divine demons smiled. Their hard work was worth it to be praised by His Majesty. Then, they explained to Zhou Marshall the reason why they could bring so many chaotic divine demons over. It turned out that more and more chaotic divine demons knew about them after they kept promoting the use of chaotic divine treasures to trade for Master God tier divine artifacts in the divine demon realm. In addition, after they confirmed the authenticity of this matter through their own channels, some of the experts among they could not wait to come over and trade with them. The 232 chaotic divine demons that they had brought were only the first batch of chaotic divine demons. In the following days, they would bring more and more chaotic divine demon, until they were discovered by their chaotic divine demon Di Huang. "Your chaotic divine demon Di Huang doesn't seem like much either? He actually didn't discover that you were secretly trading Master God tier divine artifacts." Zhou Marshall marveled. If such a transaction were to occur in his Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's territory, with the powerful intelligence-gathering agencies and in-country monitoring agencies of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, it would take less than half a day to find the leader who organized such a transaction and quickly investigate it to the end. Whether it was friend or foe, it would be easy to find out. The Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, which was augmented by many Lord talents, supreme treasures, titles, and other treasures, was not only powerful in terms of combat strength, but also in terms of intelligence gathering, farming, animal husbandry, healthcare, scientific research, life technology, entertainment services, and other aspects. From this, it could be seen that the chaotic divine demon Di Huang's control over the chaotic divine demons in the divine demon realm and divine demon realm was very ordinary. It was hard to imagine what that supreme will realm existence was doing normally. As if sensing what Zhou Marshall wanted to ask, the space-time chaotic divine demon explained, "Your Majesty, you don't know. Ever since our chaotic divine demon Di Huang created the divine demon realm, he has been cultivating in seclusion. In all these years, we've only seen him a few times. Even though Di Huang has been in seclusion, the inspection committee under him has been in charge of the entire divine demon realm to prevent any incidents that are detrimental to Di Huang. If our secret transaction with the chaotic divine treasure is discovered by the inspections, they will definitely report it to the chaotic divine demon, Your Excellency Di Huang, if they can't deal with us. At that time, our situation will probably not be good. Selling chaos divine treasures to the outside world is essentially an act of weakening the power of the divine demon realm after all. Di Huang won't allow it." Zhou Marshall nodded slightly. In addition, he noticed that when Di Huang was mentioned, the space-time chaotic divine demon and the other chaotic divine demons revealed obvious fear. Obviously, even though the chaotic divine demon Di Huang had been in seclusion for a long time and did not appear in front of the chaotic divine demons. His prestige in the hearts of these clansmen did not decrease at all. It was only because he had the Lord talent that could increase his loyalty that the space-time chaotic divine demon, they would not betray him and tell the chaotic divine demon Di Huang that he had bought them. Without the Lord talent, His Excellency Di Huang, the chaotic divine demon, would have already known about his purchase of the chaotic divine treasure. You play it by ear. If you encounter any irresistible danger, immediately leave the divine demon realm. Then, tell this emperor that this emperor will open the warp gate of the shadow realm and bring you to the blazing sun divine kingdom. In the blazing sun divine kingdom, even the chaotic divine demon Di Huang wouldn't dare to personally chase after me. Zhou Marshall said. The chaotic divine demon was a life form formed from the incomplete body of the chaos will. If it dared to appear in the real world, it would dare to hunt down a subordinate of a supreme lord. The supreme will would personally deal with the other party and use it to make up for the flaws of the supreme great cosmos even without him making a move. Following that, Zhou Marshall chatted briefly with them before giving the spacetime chaotic divine demon a total of 928 master god-tier divine artifacts. Then, he wiped out the 232 chaotic divine demons with a single palm strike. He obtained a total of 964 units of chaos divine treasures after extracting the loots. Then, they went to the ruins of the chaos of death and obtained another 170 units of chaos divine treasures. At this point, the number of chaos divine treasures in his hands had already reached 4,624 units. Zhou nodded slightly. Not bad. He was only a few hundred units away from the 5,000 units of chaos divine treasure needed to advance to a high-level master god-tier kingdom. On Zhou Fight's side, they should be able to gather enough chaos divine treasures after conquering the 2 Grade 4 Supreme God War territories. Maybe upgrading his territory and upgrading it to the Lord's territory of a high-level master god-tier kingdom was tonight. Zhou Marshall thought to himself. Then, he didn't think too much about it. He opened the warp gate of the shadow world and met up with the blazing sun divine kingdom's army led by Zhou Win. He continued to conquer the other territories on the high continent. The blazing sun divine kingdom now occupied 2/5 of the entire high continent. He was almost halfway to conquering the entire high continent. Then let's continue the war. At the same time at the ultimate void battlefield, after Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils prepared their army, they immediately rushed to the 1st Grade 4 Supreme God-level war territory, the Mystic Sound war territory. However, they were stunned by the scene in front of them when they arrived at Mystic Sound Main City, because the Mystic Sound Main City was actually empty. Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils frowned and looked at the empty Mystic Sound Main City for a few seconds. Then Zhou Fight thought for a moment and called Meng Tuo over. "Greetings, Your Majesty," Meng Tuo said respectfully. After the baptism of the Lord talent, Meng Tuo's loyalty had increased to another level. He basically would not betray Zhou anymore. Go and see what's going on inside. If there's anything wrong, come out immediately, Zhou Fight said. Meng Tuo was the only god spirit under he who had the combat power of a quasi-supreme will. It was the most suitable and safest choice for him to investigate the enemy. Yes, Your Grace, Meng Tuo said respectfully. It was just a main city of a Grade 4 Supreme God-level war territory. Unless a Supreme Willpower Realm expert descended, no one could hurt him. Therefore, he had no objections to His Majesty's arrangements. He was even a little eager to give it a try. He immediately flew towards the Mystic Sound main city and quickly flew into it. When Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils saw this, a strange look flashed across their eyes. He actually went in directly? The Supreme God-level defense facilities were actually not activated? Did they really give up on this main city? The 2 god spirits thought to themselves. A moment later, Meng Tuo flew out of Mystic Sound main city and quickly arrived in front of Zhou Fight. Your Majesty, I've already investigated all of this Mystic Sound main city. I used the power of my will to observe the entire Mystic Sound main city, including the hidden Mystic Realm worlds in the city. In the end, I discovered that there are no longer any god spirits of the ultimate void race in this main city. The entire Mystic Sound main city has been completely emptied. Not only did the ultimate void race no longer exist, but even the treasures in the treasure vault and the base star core were taken away. If I'm not wrong, this Mystic Sound main city should have been abandoned, Meng Tuo said truthfully. He was extremely surprised even though his tone was calm. The ultimate void race had always been very domineering when facing the forces under the supreme will. This was the first time he had seen the ultimate void race abandon their main city to avoid battle. Could the ultimate void race really be afraid of his majesty? Or did the ultimate void race have other plans? Was that why they had no choice but to give up on the main city they controlled? He had some guesses. However, this did not mean that he still cared about his ultimate void race. He was just instinctively thinking about the reason behind it. After Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils heard what Meng Tuo said, they immediately released their willpower to explore the entire Mystic Sound main city. A moment later, Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils retracted their willpower. They looked at each other and understood each other's thoughts. It seemed like the ultimate void race guarding the main city had really run away. Otherwise, this Mystic Sound main city would definitely not be so empty. Come on. To the other 8 sub-cities in the Shenin War territories, Zhou Fight said. The Lord of 10,000 Evils had the same thought. He nodded when he heard this. Then, they immediately went to the second-rate city closest to the Mystic Sound main city. As expected by Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils, there was no ultimate void race or any wealth in this second-rate city. It seemed like they had also been moved away in advance. Then, they spent more than half an hour teleporting from Zhou Fight to the remaining 7 secondary cities. In the end, without exception, these secondary cities became empty. This empty city case was not the only one. All the cities in the Shenin War territories did not have any ultimate void race. They actually ran away. The Lord of 10,000 Evils' expression was very strange and inconceivable. Just like Meng Tuo in his impression, the ultimate void race was especially domineering when facing other external forces, especially when facing Lord of 10,000 Evils and his army in the past. It could almost be described as insufferably arrogant. This was also the first time he had encountered the ultimate void race that abandoned the city and fled. You could say run. Or you could say you gave up. Zhou Fight said, I think the cities in the other Grade 4 Supreme God-level war territories, the territories of venerated Ming's war territories, should be the same. The Void Emperor must have personally ordered them to retreat. Otherwise, they would never dare to abandon the city and escape. The Lord of 10,000 Evils nodded. The ultimate Void race's faith in the Void Emperor could only be described as fanatical. Almost 80% of the ultimate Void race were fanatic believers of the Void Emperor. Since the Void Emperor had ordered they to be stationed in the city, even if they encountered a crisis that was enough to threaten their life, they would definitely not dare to retreat easily. Instead, they had to apply to the Void Emperor and obtain his approval before they dared to retreat. There was a high chance that the Void Emperor had given the order for them to retreat. That was why they could retreat so calmly without leaving any traces of panic. Since the Void Emperor chose to let his soldiers abandon the city and return, he is probably going to have a final battle with our Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord. The Lord of 10,000 Evils sighed, but he was also looking forward to it and excited. He looked at Zhou Fight and said, That must have been a shocking battle. I'm prepared to stay behind to watch the battle. Big brother, what about you? I'll pass. I am the culprit for this situation. If I stay, once the Void Emperor discovers that I'm on the battlefield, there's a high chance that he will get rid of me first to vent his anger. I don't want to die just because I stayed to watch the commotion. Zhou Fight actually wanted to watch this shocking battle too. It was very likely that there would be a scene of 3 willpower experts fighting together after all. Such a sight was rare. However, to be on the safe side, he decided not to join in the fun. He was only a grade 1 supreme god now. There was too much risk in watching the fun. If he was a supreme willpower realm expert, even if he was only a low-level supreme willpower realm expert, he would dare to participate in the battle in 2 days and even dare to seek benefits from it. Forget about grade 1 supreme gods. The aftershocks of their battle could easily kill him. All right. The Lord of 10,000 Evils nodded regretfully. He thought for a moment and understood Zoophyte's thoughts. The person who caused the entire Ultimate Void battlefield to fall was the big brother beside him, after all. If he was the Void Emperor, he would definitely kill the common people's regal first if he saw his brother appear on the battlefield. One should not think that an expert of the Void Emperor's level would not do that. He could even take out a willpower treasure and let a supreme willpower realm expert hide his identity to kill the common people's regal. If he could do such a thing that broke the rules, what couldn't he do? The moral integrity of the strong is not necessarily noble. Could be despicable and unscrupulous. Let's take another look at the territories of the venerated Ming War. Even though there's a high chance they've all retreated, let's take a look to make sure. Zoophyte said. The Lord of 10,000 Evils nodded. Subsequently, Zoophyte opened the Ultimate Void Tunnel and headed for the Grade 4 Supreme God-level War Territory, the venerated Ming War Territory. More than an hour later, Zoophyte and the Lord of 10,000 Evils checked the entire territory of venerated Ming's War and confirmed that there was no Ultimate Void God Spirit in either the main city or the secondary city. They're really all gone. The Lord of 10,000 Evils smiled. There was a time when he also wanted to personally create such a scene. However, the power of the Ultimate Void race quickly made him hide this delusion deep in his heart, not daring to mention it again. However, in less than 10 days after common people's regal came to the Ultimate Void battlefield, he had almost wiped out all the enemies in the Ultimate Void battlefield, leaving only the sanctuary unconquered. The huge contrast between ideals and reality made he feel a little dazed at this moment. He had a strong illusion that it was unreal. It also made he deeply realize the difference between him and the common people's regal again. However, the Lord of 10,000 Evils, who had experienced so many things in battles along the way, was calm and was not affected by this difference. In his heart, there was only magnanimity and relief. Brother, our mission is complete. The Lord of 10,000 Evils muttered before a faint smile appeared on his face. Yeah. Zoophyte smiled faintly. It's done. I can finally leave this cold and boring place. That's cold and boring? The Lord of 10,000 Evils smiled casually. Your brother, I, have stayed in this place for tens of thousands of years. You're good, Zoophyte said. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha. The two of them could not help but burst out laughing. Yeah. Right at that moment, Zoophyte suddenly sensed something and listened attentively. Seeing this, the Lord of 10,000 Evils also quietened down and waited for Zoophyte's response. Soon Zoophyte came back to his senses. What's going on, big brother? The Lord of 10,000 Evils asked curiously. Nothing serious. My main body just gave me a mission to complete with my troops. Tisk. I thought I could rest for 2 days after I finished here, but it seems I can't. Zoophyte said. Can I help you? The Lord of 10,000 Evils said seriously. I'll definitely do my best to help Big Brother if you need help. His attitude was very serious. It was obvious that he was really going all out when he said all out. No need. Piece of cake. Zoophyte shook his head. The Lord of 10,000 Evils did not ask further. However, he knew very well that this matter was probably not as simple as Big Brother had said. If it was really that simple, couldn't the main body just send other subordinates? How could the dignified common people's regal not have powerful subordinates? How could he have to choose Zoophyte, the strongest combatant under him, to carry out the mission? This small matter was probably not ordinary. However, since Zoophyte did not say anything, it meant that there was no need for him to interfere. The Lord of 10,000 Evils now respected Zhou Fight very much, so he did not say anything else. However, he still took out a dark purple square token and handed it to Zhou Fight. The front of the square token was engraved with the word Demon. On the back was a miniature map of the ultimate void battlefield. The Lord of 10,000 Evils said, "Big brother, this is my Demon Lord token. There's a trace of my willpower attached to it. If you need my help, you can just inject your willpower into it. I can instantly appear in front of Big Brother through this willpower. I know Big Brother doesn't need my help, but let me do something too," the Lord of 10,000 Evils said with a smile. "Okay. Then I won't be polite when the time comes." Zhou Fight looked at the token in his hand and then at the serious Lord of 10,000 Evils in front of him. He knew that he probably could not refuse, so he nodded and agreed. He could tell that Lord of 10,000 Evils sincerely wanted to help, which warmed his heart. This younger brother seems to be not bad, Zhou Fight thought. Then, he thought for a moment and took out a token to hand to Lord of 10,000 Evils. "This is the Common People's Order that I personally created. It also contains a wisp of my will. If you encounter danger, you can also communicate with this wisp of willpower of mine. I can also instantly come to your side to save you." He possessed the divine power of the ultimate void race and grasped the warp gate of the shadow world. It could be said that he could go wherever he wanted. Therefore, it was not a lie to instantly come in front of Lord of 10,000 Evils to save him. "Thanks, Big Brother." The Lord of 10,000 Evils was overjoyed and immediately took the token. He looked solemnly at the token engraved with the 95 Supreme King Dragon God in his hand. He knew that it might really save his life in the future, or even more than once. This was a true life-saving trump card. In the future, it might even surpass the life-saving treasures that the Supreme Will had given him. Thinking of this, he placed it properly in his world ring. Zhou Fight smiled and opened the interface, seeing how solemn he was. Then, he chose to leave the ultimate void battlefield. The next second, a supreme door appeared in front of Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils. "Brother Demon Lord, take care," Zhou Fight said solemnly. "Take care, Big Brother. If there's anything, you have to let me know," the Lord of 10,000 Evils said solemnly. Zhou Fight nodded and led the army through the Supreme Gate, leaving the ultimate void battleground. The Lord of 10,000 Evils looked at the Supreme Door that was slowly disappearing with a slightly dazed expression. However, a smile appeared on his face. He turned to look at the army behind him and said loudly, "Brothers, let's have a big party when we get back. Then I'll give you guys a long vacation tomorrow." To return home, the billions of God spirits immediately cheered. At the same time, Zhou Fight had already returned to Blazing Sun Divine Capital through the Supreme Gate. He asked Bai Yun to lead the army into a Grade 4 Supreme God spaceship to rest and reorganize. Then, an hour later, they would set off again. As for the destination, it was the Crimson Great Cosmos that they had never set foot in. According to the original, the Heavenly Map Army led by Wu Tu already knows a piece of news through the spies lurking in the Crimson Great Cosmos. There is already a Scarlet Lord who has officially established the first beginner grade Master God-tier Lord faction in the Crimson Great Cosmos. And this Lord is an old acquaintance of the main body. It's that Aos with the heaven-defying Lord talent, the final boss-level Lord of the King of 10,000 Kings event. It seems like the grudges left behind in the past, including the grudges of the Chaos Humans, have to be completely settled. A smile appeared on Zhou Fight's face. Zhou Fight recalled the information about Aos. The Lord under the Crimson Overlord was also the Scarlet Lord with the highest chance of becoming the 5th Reserve Army in the Crimson Great Cosmos. He was almost equivalent to Zhou of the Crimson Great Cosmos. Of course, he was far inferior to Zhou in terms of status, strength, influence, potential, and other comparable factors. At most, he was just a Zhou who had been weakened countless times. As for his Lord talent, Zhou still remembered that it was a Lord talent that could inherit the power of a high-level Divine Kingdom Lord. This Lord talent was indeed abnormal. Even Zhou was shocked when he first heard about this Lord talent. It was too easy for this Lord talent to become a reality after all. Unlike his Lord talent, which was mostly developed, he wasn't very powerful in the early stages. It was only at the later stages that this could be of greater use. Therefore, Zhou was very envious of AUS for having such an abnormal Lord talent. However, in the eyes of the current Zhou, having the inheritance rights of a high-level Divine Kingdom Lord faction was actually just that. His potential would be exhausted when he truly inherited the power of the high-level Divine Kingdom Lord after all. He was still playing a huge role even though he was already the ruler of a Master God tier intermediate grade nation, unlike most of his mythical tier unique Lord talent. For example, the Scarlet Broodmother, the Heart Thief, the original Dragon Abyss, the Great Country Project. Then Zhou thought of the situation in the Crimson Great Cosmos. The Crimson Overlord's Crimson Contest was not over yet. Billions of Scarlet Lords were still fighting for the position of the Fifth Reserve. AUS was one of the Lord candidates who had the highest chance of obtaining the Fifth Reserve position. Even Crimson Overlord paid close attention to this junior. Even though AUS had suffered a setback in the King of 10,000 Kings event, the Crimson Overlord also knew that the Zhou that AUS was facing was a peerless genius that was rarely seen in the billions of years of the two universes. His potential was close to that of a willpower expert. Therefore, even though AUS had suffered a setback in front of Zhou, the Crimson Overlord did not blame him too much. It still had a lot of expectations for him. AUS did live up to the Crimson Overlord's expectations. They had already surpassed many local high-level Divine Kingdom Lord factions in the Crimson Great Cosmos. They were the first to promote a high-level Divine Kingdom Lord faction to a beginner-grade Master God-tier Kingdom Lord faction as a Scarlet Lord. I was worried about becoming a beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord. Where can I find the Scarlet Kingdom? AUS, you actually appeared in such a lively manner? The corners of Zhou's lips curled up. Among the many conditions to upgrade to a high-level Master God-tier Lords faction, 2 of them were to conquer the territory of 3 beginner-grade Master God-tier Lords under the Crimson Overlord and a beginner-grade Master God-tier Lords territory that was not under the Crimson Overlord. He had already made arrangements for the latter. Linger would be able to upgrade the Spiritual Medicine Divine Kingdom to a beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord faction with his help. Then, she would be able to subdue it and complete the latter conditions. As for the former, wasn't AUS beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord faction already appearing? Even though he could also wait until the Crimson Great Cosmos gave birth to 3 beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord factions before going over to conquer them and completing all the conditions in one go. However, that would take too long. During this period, there was a higher chance that an accident that Zhou did not expect would happen. Therefore, his main body plan to immediately send Zhou to conquer AUS beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord territory, the moment it was completed. What he obtained was what truly belonged to him after all. When I go to the Crimson Great Cosmos this time, I can use the Scarlet Natural Enemies talent to disguise myself as a scarlet creature. Then, I can establish a territory there and disguise myself as a Scarlet Lord. Then, as a Scarlet Lord, I will conquer AUS beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord territory. This way, the destruction of AUS Divine Kingdom would not cause too much of a stir. AUS died in the Civil War after all. This kind of destruction is completely normal for lords to fight for supremacy. Even the Crimson Overlord can't blame me. On the contrary, he should value me more. After I destroy AUS Master God-tier Kingdom, I don't even need to escape. I can let my main body send a clone to replace me and continue to stay in the Great Scarlet Universe to participate in the Scarlet Lord's hegemony. This way, when the new Lord territory of the Master God-tier Kingdom is born in the Crimson Great Cosmos, I won't have to take the risk of exposing my identity and cross the border again to destroy the new Master God-tier Kingdom. The Scarlet Lord clone in the Crimson Great Cosmos can go and start a war openly and destroy it to fulfill my advancement conditions. The more Zhou thought about it, the more he felt that his idea was not bad. If he did well, not only could he complete the advancement requirements of the Master God-tier Kingdom, but could also cultivate a faction that belonged to his main body in the Crimson Great Cosmos. This way, when the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord went to war in the future, his main body would have a very powerful spy in the Crimson Great Cosmos. At that time, he would participate in the war between the two wills. This faction would play an unexpected and huge role in obtaining information about the war. The more Zhou Fight thought about it, the more he felt that his idea was not bad. He immediately contacted his main body and told him this idea. Soon, the main body sent a message saying that Zhou Fight's idea was not bad. He could do as he wished, and the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom would provide all the support it could. However, he had to resolve a problem before that. It's a question of identity. Even though they had the Lord Talent, Scarlet Natural Enemy, which allowed they to disguise themselves as scarlet creatures and infiltrate the Scarlet Universe. However, the Scarlet Natural Enemy only had the mythical tier unique Lord Talent. Its disguise could at most deceive Master Gods, but it would be exposed if it encountered a Supreme God. Even if Zhou spent some time and resources to upgrade Scarlet Natural Enemy to the Supreme Unique Lord Talent, it would only be able to deceive the Supreme Gods. However, it would definitely be exposed when facing a Supreme Willpower Elite, or even the Crimson Overlord. Once they were exposed, they would be in danger. At that time, not to mention AUS conquering the Master God Tier Kingdom, even returning alive would be a problem. So, in order to safely infiltrate the Crimson Great Cosmos and complete their conquest plan, they had to prioritize solving the problem of not being discovered. Otherwise, it was very likely that they had been discovered by the Crimson Overlord the moment they entered the Crimson Great Cosmos. Zhou felt that something was amiss just thinking about what happened after that. Zhou Fight felt that his main body's considerations were right, but then he frowned. How difficult was it to deceive a willpower expert like the Crimson Overlord? He did not have such means. What to do? The next second, the same thought flashed through Zhou Fight's and Zhou's minds almost at the same time. Seek help from the Supreme Will. It's a little embarrassing, but for the sake of upgrading the territory, it doesn't matter if I lose a bit of face. Zhou Fight was quite open-minded, not to mention the main body. Zhou even felt that as the Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army personally chosen by the Supreme Will, the future Supreme Lord's 3rd Reserve Army, the relationship between the Supreme Will and him was, in short, the relationship between parents and children. Wasn't it normal to ask parents for help when the child was in trouble? Main body, you're getting really thick-skinned, Zhou Fight said sincerely. Likewise, Zhou chuckled and replied, let me explain this matter to the Supreme Will. Of course, he had to do it personally as his main body to show respect. Zhou Fight naturally had no objections. In the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou stood up from the Tao Comprehension futon and said respectfully, the 3rd Reserve Army of the Supreme Lord, Common People's Regal Zhou, requests an audience with the Supreme Will. After a while, what is it? The Supreme Will did not appear, but his voice reverberated throughout the entire Divine Kingdom world. Oh, Lord Supreme Will. Zhou recounted how he wanted to send a clone to the Crimson Great Cosmos to destroy the newly established beginner grade Master God Tier Lord territory. Then, he mentioned his one request. I see. In that case, you do need an ability to hide your identity. I can help you with that. But you have to promise me one thing, the Supreme Will said. Go ahead, my lord, Zhou immediately said. After you establish your faction in the Crimson Great Cosmos, if there are any Master God Tier Lord factions in the Supreme Great Cosmos in the future that want to go to the Crimson Great Cosmos and conquer the Master God Tier Lord factions in the Crimson Great Cosmos to allow their Lord factions to advance, you have to help as much as you can, the Supreme Will said. Okay. Zhou agreed without hesitation. Such a small matter was just a matter of convenience to him. Even if he agreed, it wouldn't affect him. On the contrary, if he could make the lords of the Master God Tier Kingdom owe him a favor if he did it, why not? Then let me help my successor. The Supreme Will chuckled and did not speak again for more than 10 minutes. At first, Zhou thought that the Supreme Will had left, but His voice sounded again as Zhou was about to return to continue cultivating. Get your clone to go. I've arranged everything. Even if the Crimson Overlord appears in front of you, it won't be able to recognize your true identity with the means I left behind. Thank you, Lord Supreme Will, Zhou immediately said. Common people's regal. Cultivate your power in the Crimson Great Cosmos. Don't worry too much about your cover being blown. Let's not talk about the methods I provided to hide your identity. I can still protect you even if they really discover your identity. Even if we're separated by a universe, the Supreme Will said. Even though his tone was calm and elegant, it was also filled with unquestionable confidence and dominance. Zhou took a deep breath. Ever since he participated in the battle for supremacy, he had heard that in the battle between the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord, the Supreme Will had the upper hand in the beginning, but as time passed, the former glory of the Supreme Will was no longer there. Now, he was at a disadvantage. However, when he heard the Supreme Will's confident words, a question involuntarily appeared in Zhou's mind. Was the Supreme Will really at a disadvantage now? How could the disadvantaged party say such a thing? He thought for a moment and stopped thinking about it. As usual, there were some things that he would know sooner or later. What you shouldn't know, forcing answers will only bring you trouble. He informed Zhou with a thought. In the sky above blazing sun divine capital, Zhou had just received news from Zhou. The Supreme Will had already prepared it? Zhou was curious. It was unknown what method the Supreme will use to hide their identity. To be able to make the willpower expert of the Crimson Overlord unable to recognize his true identity. Just the thought of it made him feel that it was very high-end. He did not immediately set off for the Crimson Great Cosmos. Instead, he meditated for an hour until his soldiers were done recuperating. Then, he gathered his soldiers and prepared to head to the Crimson Great Cosmos. He had a thought. The space around they changed. In the next second, they arrived at a strange world constructed from all kinds of shadows. It was the Shadow World. The Crimson Great Cosmos also had shadows, so it could be reached directly through the warp gate of the Shadow World. This was much more convenient and faster than other methods. Therefore, Zhou did not choose the method recorded in the bloodline inheritance in his mind to reach the Crimson Great Cosmos. Instead, he prepared to use the simplest method to go to the Crimson Great Cosmos. Then, he first made they, and the soldiers under him, turn into misty monsters that emitted a scarlet aura through the ability bestowed by the Lord Talent, Scarlet Natural Enemy. Then, Zhou conjured a mirror and looked at himself in it. A scarlet god spirit wearing a blood-red imperial robe and a 9-dragon crown stood in the mirror with blood-red skin and scarlet eyes. With his appearance and temperament, even if outsiders knew that he was a fog monster, they would probably be attracted by his appearance and temperament, unwilling to be his enemy. Zhou clicked his tongue but did not mind. It's impossible to become ugly on your own initiative. In any case, with this appearance, no one would be able to tell that he was the common people's regal. Then he had another thought. A warp gate that emitted void ripples appeared in front of them. When Zhou saw this, he immediately ordered the soldiers to enter the warp gate with them and disappear. Not long after they disappeared, a shadow quietly appeared and quietly watched the gradually disappearing warp gate. It was the ruler of the Shadow World, Will of Shadow. I didn't expect this guy to achieve so much in such a short time. I heard that even the ultimate void battlefield was taken back by him alone. Back then, I bestowed the Lord Talent of the Lord of Holy Shadow to him and formed a good relationship with him. The Will of Shadow sighed. Then its body dissipated and disappeared. In the Crimson Great Cosmos, Zhou vision went dark. This made him feel that something was amiss. What is going on? In the past, during the teleportation of the warp gate of the Shadow World, although the surrounding environment was a little dark, it was not so dark that one could not see anything, right? He immediately released the power of his will and surveyed his surroundings. In the end, what made his heart sink was that even his late-stage divine transformation realm couldn't see through the darkness in front of him. He immediately contacted his soldiers to see if they could be contacted while he felt that something was amiss. Originally, Zhou Fight was already prepared to not be able to contact them. However, what surprised him was that he could easily contact Bai Yun and them. Bai Yun, how's the situation over there? Are the soldiers hurt? Zhou Fight immediately asked. Your Majesty, there are no problems on my side, and there are no casualties among the soldiers. It's just that I don't know what's going on, but everyone can't see. Bai Yun replied, sounding very shocked. Bai Yun was already a Grade 1 Supreme God. To be able to make a Grade 1 Supreme God enter this state of blindness without noticing, regardless of whether the other party was a god spirit or some other strange thing, it was very likely that the other party was in existence that he could not contend against. Originally, he was still a little panicked, but pretended to be calm. However, after hearing His Majesty's voice, Bai Yun was no longer nervous. She could even calmly contact the other soldiers to inquire about their situation and report to Zhou Fight. It's okay. Let's not let everyone think too much about it. It should be fine in a while. It may have been a minor accident during the transition. Zhou Fight replied. There was a reason for him to make such a guess. He didn't have a sense of danger like a sudden impulse after discovering his situation as a person with great luck. He trusted his intuition very much. Since there was nothing wrong with his intuition, there was a high chance that he had not encountered any danger. Perhaps it was really just an accident. Bai Yun heaved a sigh of relief when she heard this. Then, she immediately told this news to the other soldiers to appease their morale. Soon, the army was no longer agitated. A moment later, Zhou Fight had an idea. An inexplicable intuition made him subconsciously issue the mental command to open his eyes. Then, he saw a crack of light appear in the darkness in front of him. Then, the crack of light grew larger and larger. Finally, he saw the world he was in. It was a world of scarlet. At a glance, heaven, earth, great lunar star, sun star, trees, creatures, everything was a scarlet color. At most, there was a difference in the shape, size, and color. This made the world seem a little monotonous, but other than monotony, it was also filled with a mysterious and dangerous feeling. At this moment, Zhou Fight and they were in a huge scarlet city. In the capital city, a large number of fog monsters of different strengths walked around. There were many of them. Just the fog monsters in front of him numbered in the tens of millions. Some of them were doing business. Some were chatting in stalls by the roadside, and some were walking on the streets expressionlessly. It was bustling with activity, like a normal city and its residents. When Zhou Fight and they saw this scene, they felt that it was very strange. When they saw these scarlet fog monsters in the Supreme Continent, they usually did not interact much and directly killed them after all. Now that they saw that they were living like normal life forms, with their own cities, habits, and even civilizations, they did not seem to be any distinct from the living beings on the high continent. It would be strange if they did not find it strange. Your Majesty, we're dressed differently. Right at that moment, Bai Yun's outburst sounded in Zhou Fight's mind. Zhou Fight glanced at them upon hearing this. Indeed, even though they looked like fog monsters, they were clearly very different from the fog creatures they had transformed into before entering the Crimson Great Cosmos. Their current appearance was clearly more in line with the dressing style and appearance of this monster capital. Before entering the Crimson Great Cosmos, he was more or less casual. If they came to this monster city in the way they did before they entered the Crimson Great Cosmos, they would definitely be quickly discovered by the fog monsters here. At that time, what would happen would definitely not be good. They might even directly expose their identity as a supreme great cosmos life form. And now, their appearance was clearly in perfect harmony with the style here. No matter which monster came in front of them, even if they observed carefully, they would not discover any difference between them and the local scarlet fog monsters. Zhou Fight glimpsed at himself. Then, he realized that his style of clothing was very distinct from what he had changed before. His first choice was to alter his blood-colored imperial robe into a purple imperial robe. The 9-dragon crown on his head turned into a bewitching abyssal demon god crown. His skin color had also turned dark purple. At the same time, there were some complicated, profound, and mysterious golden law engravings on the surface of his skin. His eyes were still scarlet, but in addition to the scarlet color, there was also a bewitching dark purple halo in the middle. Zhou Feit took a look and was slightly surprised. It was hard to say. Even though his attire and appearance had changed drastically in terms of handsomeness, his appearance and attire were not much inferior to his original self. This body originally had some flaws. It lacked the nobility and domineering aura of Di Huang nurtured by great luck. But now that he had replaced the other party, this nobility and domineering aura could no longer be said to make up for it. Instead, it had already overflowed. It had even reached the level of his nobility and domineering aura that exceeded his own bewitching appearance. When other scarlet monsters saw he for the first time, their first thought was that the other party was a natural-born Di Huang. Their second thought was, wow, this Di Huang is too perfect. The change in appearance and temperament was a small matter. Zhou Feit only took a glance and did not care anymore. However, he couldn't help but have a doubt. What was going on? How did he and his subordinates become like this? Where was this place in front of him? Could it really be such a coincidence that he had warped over from the warp gate of the shadow world and landed in the capital of this scarlet fog monster? Just as Zhou Feit thought of these questions, a huge stream of information suddenly surged into his mind. Zhou Feit was shocked. However, he realized that this information was harmless, so he tried to accept it. A moment later, Zhou Feit, who had received all the information, looked enlightened. So this is how the Supreme will hide our identities. So there shouldn't be any major problems. Zhou Feit muttered to himself. According to the information in his mind, the Supreme will successfully enter the Scarlet Great Cosmos and became a Scarlet Lord in order to hide the identity of them. At the same time, in order to give them a suitable reason to attack Aus beginner grade Master God-tier Kingdom, he chose to let Zhou Feit and the Scarlet Army under him replace a powerful Scarlet Lord in the Crimson Great Cosmos. That was his current identity as the Scarlet Lord. This Scarlet Lord was called the Succubus Lord. Her real name was Noctil, and her mother was the Succubus God Lord, Noctunur, born of the Succubus race and the descendant of the Succubus God Lord. He was not eye-catching among the many descendants of the Succubus God Lord. Later on, he was even killed by the Scarlet Fog monsters that invaded the Abyss and transformed into a Scarlet Fog race. However, at this moment the gears of fate began to spin. After Noctil, who had been transformed into a scarlet creature, joined the Scarlet Lord contest, he actually awakened the legendary tier Lord talent. Later on, after some tempering, he even upgraded his legendary tier Lord talent to the mythical tier unique Lord talent. Noctil, who had the mythical tier and only Lord talent, quickly rose in the battle for supremacy among the Scarlet Lords. Later on, he became one of the top Scarlet Lords, only second to Aus. After hearing this news, the Succubus God Lord realized that this inconspicuous descendant of hers had a high chance of touching the supreme position of Supreme Scarlet in the future. Therefore, he quickly raised the importance he placed on Noctil, making him the son he valued the most. He even personally crowned Noctil as a Succubus Lord. It meant that all the lords of the myriad races in the entire Succubus race were not called Succubus Lords with the title of Succubus Lord. Only Noctil could use this title to fight for supremacy in the Scarlet Contest. At the same time, Noctil, who had the title of Succubus Lord, could command all the Scarlet Lords of the Succubus race and let them contribute resources to his hegemony. With such help, the Succubus Lord Noctil's strength rapidly increased, and he immediately reached the same level as Aus. Originally, according to this development, the Succubus Lord Noctil might really be able to defeat Aus in the future and take the position of the 5th Reserve Army. However, at this moment the succubus lord was confused. The succubus lord's mentality also expanded rapidly. Later on, he even thought that he could match AUS, who was in the limelight. In addition, AUS was deeply trusted and looked forward to this matter by the Crimson Overlord, making Noctil jealous. Hence, an idea appeared in his mind. That was to challenge Lord AUS and become the strongest lord among billions of Scarlet Lords. This way, it would be easier for him to compete for the position of the 5th Reserve Army in the future. This thought was like a goddess that AUS dreamed of at night, constantly teasing his heart. Finally, after he learned that AUS was preparing to advance to become a beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord, he could no longer hold back his ambition and chose to send troops to attack Lord Aus Chaos Scarlet Divine Kingdom. He was also a beginner-grade Divine Kingdom Lord, so he still had some confidence in his military strength. He felt that even though AUS was the master of a high-level Divine Kingdom, the difference between the two should not be as great as he had imagined. Most importantly, he realized something. If AUS really established a beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord territory and became the Lord of the first Chief God's territory among the Scarlet Lords, then he would really have no chance of competing with he for the position of the 5th Reserve Army. Therefore, in this war operation, be it on impulse or after careful consideration, he had to fight. This was because he had no way out. What happened next was simple. Noctil did not expect that there was a huge difference in strength between him and AUS, nor did he expect that AUS had the protection of 100 Master Gods and a Supreme God. Due to the huge difference in strength, Noctil suffered a crushing defeat. If not for the Succubus God Lord's personal plea, Noctil would not have come back alive and would have died on the battlefield. However, even though he had survived, Noctil had also suffered heavy losses. Not only did he lose more than half of the troops that he had painstakingly nurtured, but even the Succubus God Lord thought that he was useless after he had experienced this defeat. He no longer doted on him. As a result, he had already lost his former prestige among the Succubus race. All the Scarlet Lords of the Succubus race had left him. He only had his own headquarters under him. Other than that, there were no other forces that could be used. Noctil was already seriously injured. When he realized that he had completely lost the right to compete for the 5th Reserve Army, his faith collapsed and he died. Then Zoophyte came with his subordinates. Tisk, I'm taking over a life loser script. Zoophyte was amazed. However, he instantly disregarded it. US, whom Noctil found difficult to deal with. He had been defeated by the main body a long time ago, not to mention the current him. 100 Master Gods? The Supreme God? Any of the main combat troops under him could crush the other party 100 times with 1% of their strength. Then, he was not in a hurry to gather his subordinates and attack Aus beginner-grade Master God-tier Kingdom. The original owner of the body had just been defeated and was already risking his life to challenge the other Scarlet Lords. If he lost, he would be called stupid by the other Scarlet Lords. If he won, it would arouse the suspicion of the other Scarlet Lords and even the Crimson Overlord. The gains would not make up for the losses. Therefore, Zoophyte planned to conquer Aus beginner-grade Master God-tier Lord faction in a less abrupt way. Before that, he focused his attention on his soul consciousness. A cube that emitted psychedelic colors appeared in his hand. It was the treasure of willpower, the reality cube. Zoophyte did not expect that the Moongazer Serpent's will would return to him after taking the treasure yesterday. But then again, this transcendent-level treasure that could change reality and blind perception was indeed the best choice to help him and his subordinates hide their identities and infiltrate the Crimson Great Cosmos. However, this supreme treasure, did the Supreme will lend it to me, or did it directly give it to me? Zoophyte muttered in his heart. He thought about it and did not care anymore. The most important thing was that he could use it when he needed it regardless of whether it was his or not. He retracted his attention and turned to walk towards the succubus shrine behind him. Time was of the essence. He was about to take action.